Welcome back, everybody. You got Will and I-Man here from the Blockpad, MetaZone, Rovi, and Mscribe, and today we got some DMT updates. We're going to be talking about the Royals, a little bit of Mscribe,
a little bit of some Mcrowns,
Mcrown, yeah,
and even the NAT token, dude. In case you forgot about that one, hopefully you did not.
You cannot forget about NAT token, dude.
You definitely can't. I don't know how you can forget about a fungible token, the first non-arbitrarily generated fungible token on Bitcoin with more than 20,000 holders.
It's the only token that matters in the universe.
The only one?
The only one.
Damn, that's a little
way more interesting than Bitcoin itself.
All right, well then for sure Binance is interested, right? So let's talk about that in a bit.
Yes.
But yeah, man, so let's update what's going on. You know, we roll out these updates on individual projects, obviously the Royals. There's a lot of upcoming projects on the horizon, so obviously we're going to be talking a lot about DMT coming up, and I feel like the market might want to know more about what's happening because if you take a look at ordinals in general, the digital artifact space, kind of on a slump in a bit, a little bit of a slumping. You know, it was, the Frux came in, brought some interesting vibes, some interesting energies. Like, yo, we like
frogs.
We like frogs on MS Paint version. You know, that's cool, right?
Yeah,
they're cool. And but again, I feel like this is a good time for the ordinal space to kind of study up a bit on something new that can be applied to these digital artifacts native to Bitcoin, right? Something that is not happening on any other chain or L2 or anywhere else, period. It's happening on Bitcoin.
Yeah, it can only happen on Bitcoin. So let's kind of run through what's happened over the last couple of weeks. We launched the Royals with King. He's been killing it out there as far as marketing and just kind of talking about the art.
Yeah.
And so we launched... prior to that, we were doing a bunch of testing on Mscribe, and that was like a bunch of ups and downs. And finally, we launched King with the Royals, and it completed about maybe like a week and a half ago or so.
Basically 2 weeks.
2 weeks?
Yeah.
Has it been 2 weeks already?
I feel like it has been 2 weeks.
Man.
Okay.
And then, so the reveal is happening today, right? When you're watching this, probably the reveal has already occurred.
Yeah, it was just unfortunate timing, like overlap, I think, because of all the technical delays during the testing phase of this launch. Like we had to push things, a week or so or 2 weeks or so just to figure out technical, like, mumbo jumbo.
Yeah.
Right. And as a result of that, King had like a vacation scheduled. So like, there's an overlap here, dude. So like they had to delay the artistic unveil portion of like this entire like campaign, right? This entire happening within the DMT space. But it actually turned into like a blessing for a lot of people. I think King took advantage of that situation and started like slow rolling these unveils individually per community request or whatever.
Yeah.
Even like riddles. If you could solve this, or that, and like, I'll tell you if you're right, basically.
Yeah.
And it's been basically a week and a half of that. And people seem to be loving it.
Yeah.
So much so that they're like proposing this should be like a standard
release method.
This should be like standardized DMT UNAT like launch mechanism, part of the experience, right?
Yeah, that's cool because if you solve one of these riddles and it happens to be your block that you own, then you get to be like the one that says, I got it. This is mine. Yeah,
it's cool. You kind of get like your like, moment in the sun.
Yeah.
Right. Everybody's like oogling and googling and all that stuff over your mint, which is cool. That is like very good for the community building prospects and all that stuff. So
right.
It's been cool, but ultimately today, I think as this video will be posted, everybody will know, most likely, right, that what you got. So all you got to do is go to Mscribe, check out your UNAT inventory.
Yep. And
that's where your properly rendered Royal will be on display.
Correct. And so all these characters are going to be unique, and the reveal is happening today. So as soon as you see it, go check out Mscribe and check out what you got. All right. So in addition to that, I think it was this week we released the DMT Mcrown.
Yeah.
And so people are asking us like, why does this even exist if I already have like a crown? It's like, well, when we were doing the tests, we were on the testnet for privilege authorization, and we were the only ones there, the only ones doing tests. And so we're kind of helping Benny out with this stuff, and he's helping us out testing our own platform. And so it was just like a perfect collaboration of what was happening here. But nonetheless, people who helped us test got this ticker called redacted test. And at the time, we didn't know the name of Royal. So we got to pick a ticker name.
Yeah.
And so people minted that. And because it was on privilege auth, we were like, we got to figure out a way to, I guess, transition from like testnet to LiveNet. And the only way was to just launch a new ticker, give it an actual branding name.
Correct.
And then allow a whitelist to occur, and then people started minting. And so, but check this out, dude. Holder count to circulating supply is almost 1-to-1.
There you go.
That's pretty sick.
That's pretty sick, which is always good, right? But so the element that was chosen is the same as the Royals, right? Just so people know and understand kind of like how these things actually apply. Yeah,
because there was a moment where I had deployed this when the Royals was also deployed, and I needed to make sure that the platform was going to work. So I was like, well, I have to use the same element just to make sure everything works. And so that's why there was like a different supply, because I think we started with 8,064.
Yeah, correct.
With a different element, and then I deployed a new Mcrown ticker on this element so that it matches the Royals.
Yes.
Just to make sure things were working, right? There wasn't no. I was reducing the variables, in other words.
Well done, dude. Pat on the back for keeping things churning along nice and smoothly, right?
Yeah.
But just so people know, so it's like what? So I mean, the count so far is roughly around 2,200. But yeah, the people who had a redacted test mint, roughly like 4,500 or something like that. 4,500. So
it's about 2,000. Yeah, 50% of you haven't claimed the crown.
Yeah. So as a result of that, this is like an open, indefinite type of situation, right? So to give people ample time to, spread the word. It's like your friends, they logged off for whatever reason. Let them know, dude. Like the Mcrown is still. You got to still put in that extra step of like reminting it. But we understand today might not be the best of days. The mempool is like going absolutely bonkers.
500 sats per VByte.
Yeah, it's been like that almost all day.
Yeah, I think it's because there's an exchange trying to consolidate their UTXOs or something like that.
Something like this. Just find your proper timing. This is, again, another reason to keep this open indefinitely.
Yeah, but also don't wait forever, because a lot of projects have already reached out to us to get the Mcrown list.
Yeah, true. So, we say indefinitely, but assume.
Yeah, this snapshot could occur today, tomorrow, whatever it is.
Yeah. For
whatever creator is going to be launching next.
Correct.
They want this list. We got to give them a snapshot.
Yeah.
And then the people who hold this asset, there's only 2,000, or I should say 2,100 of you, 2,200. Those are going to be on the whitelist. And so that's it.
Yeah. So for those of you guys wondering if that was going to actually be one of the, I guess, utility applications for the Mcrown asset itself.
It's being used as such, but.
Yeah, it's not like a guarantee in any way. It's not like a shoe-in to every single future mint ever. It's up to the deployer's discretion whether or not.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's a no-brainer, right? There's definitely going to be some whitelist access moving forward for the crown holders.
That's right.
So that's good, right? That's cool. And then, of course, people have been asking me, are you guys going to actually, like, produce these in real life so I can wear my own crown? It's like...
Well, let me just, like, flip on our 3D printers and get this going.
Yeah, or my fucking iron forge in the backyard and like smelt these individually
out of real crowns out of steel.
Fuck yeah, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully we can get to the point where we do some badassery like this. You know, some phygital action. I mean, but we're definitely not there yet.
Yeah.
So keep dreaming, guys, for sure. Like it inspires us to, think of the future.
Yeah, I thought this was cool. Ord City makes a tweet here introducing UNATs by Ord City. Got art for a UNAT collection and need help with the script?
Yeah.
Tell us about it. Our devs will offer their magic.
Yeah, so shout out to these guys, dude. I mean, we have an interesting history with Ord City. We were like around for like one .bitmap auction, like us and like two other users.
Yeah, literally.
Somehow we dropped the ball. Really,
we botched that so hard. It's disgusting.
Yeah, we have footage of it somewhere, but we never published it out of like pure shame.
Yeah, it's absolute shame.
Yeah, we should have had one .bitmap, but we fucked that up. But anyway, so going full circle here, it's like Ord City is here to help out you fellow UNAT deployers, dude.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people have like the artistic creativity within you, but don't necessarily have the development chops to kind of like create your own scripts or whatever.
Yeah.
So definitely reach out to Ord City for some assistance. And there's a nice little form there. It's a pretty easy process.
Yeah. All right, moving on. Speaking of developers, we got Decoder here. It says the principles behind DMT have been unleashed on the world and are here to stay forever. Being so early in this new paradigm, it's unsurprising that tooling for creators remains sparse and esoteric right now.
Yeah.
But that doesn't have to be the case forever. Today, I'm introducing the first step in my quest to lower the barrier to entry for those looking to create anything backed by the hard data of Bitcoin blockchain emanates. So what we're looking at here is a UNAT renderer template. So if you're a marketplace or you're some sort of like a platform that needs to render real-time UNATs, well, this is how you do it. And so Decoder here is offering kind of like an easy kind of template to kind of implement on your marketplace.
And this is also to like aid in the like construction process of your own collection, right? Where you need like a rendering environment potentially.
You could do that. Yeah, you could do it that way, but there's other tools out there
yeah.
To kind of take advantage of that. But ultimately, this is a tool to just showcase on your marketplace like real-time renders of these UNATs. Yeah. Why this is important is because think about these scripts, right? These are programmable scripts, right? So some of these programs have like real-time animations based off of block data, right? A new block comes in, a new animation occurs.
Yeah.
Right. And so some of these need to be rendered in real time. Otherwise, it's just like a static image.
Yeah.
And it's just not being, I guess the truthfulness of it is not being rendered in real time if you just use a static image, which isn't the case like Magic Eden. That's essentially what they have.
Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah, this is a big deal and another showcase of like community stepping up, kind of like filling the holes. I mean, we're doing as much as we can, and we're supposed to add a little bit more of like the understanding portion to the DMT Git book of like how to render these assets also.
Yeah.
Right. Just haven't got to that point yet, but the community, again, stepping up, fulfilling that task on our behalf, which is very helpful. So shout out Decoder. Because, we want these things propagating and, living in the entire broader crypto ecosystem, right?
Yeah,
not just
100%.
on Mscribe. Yeah, not at all.
Yeah, and speaking of the community stepping up, we have Bitmap Punk here. Non-arbitrary era, Binance, you say? DMT NAT submitted to Binance through the listing program early projects.
Yeah.
And so here are the metrics for the NAT token, almost 11 million market cap, and over 20 million in volume in the last 6 months.
Yeah.
And so
if you're an exchange, that's nothing to scoff at, dude. And of course, the holder count, even more like not something to scoff at. So this runs off of the back of like Binance's recent announcement that they're opening their listing parameters, logistics, whatever, to a little bit more flexible, right? Is if you have a mid cap to even a low cap, they said,
right,
project with like some semblance of a community around it, whatever, let us know about it, and then we'll determine whether or not we can add this to the Binance, ecosystem.
Yeah, so the NAT token is the first token using the DMT framework, and it has about 20,000 holders. Yeah, so it's quite significant.
Yeah, and Bitmap Punk, I mean, him and his community, I think largely Chinese community, they're telling us like there's quite a lot of interest in the Chinese community around specifically not just NAT token, but all like DMT like fungible tokens, right?
Yeah,
there's a lot of. I mean, it's a new vertical. Of course, it's worth exploring, worth supporting and stuff. So
yeah, so Binance has like a little bit of work here to do because this is unlike anything that they've seen because this token expands every 10 minutes.
Yeah,
and it expands non-arbitrarily. It's not a smart contract. It is based on Bitcoin. And so as soon as there's a new block, there's a new supply.
Yeah, there's a little bit of understanding on their behalf of like how these Bitcoin meta protocols operate, and then the indexing of all of these different like logistical parameters, right? And so that requires the understanding of how TAP functions, and then like these new extensions of that protocol, including DMT, right? So there's a little bit of a learning curve, right?
Yeah,
but that applies to literally everything, and that's kind of the point. That's why it's a true fork in the road, right? All the existing infrastructure of Web3 is going to have to kind of like
Yeah,
adapt.
Binance, it's not like they haven't seen something new before, right?
Correct.
A new blockchain is a new thing that they have to integrate to their existing platform.
Correct.
And so this is very similar, right?
Yeah.
It's just a kind of like a different way of doing the exact same thing that they're used to doing.
Yeah.
So it's going to take a little bit of development work on their side, but nonetheless, that's why TAP exists. That's why they have a bunch of API calls. They have a pretty solid infrastructure for this to last for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that hard for Binance to support any DMT token for that matter.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. What do we have here, Iman? We're looking into the past of Opensea.
Yeah, I mean, I just conjured up and organically, we love Mscribe, right? We think it's a pretty cool platform.
Every night, every day, dude.
We have to love it to like dedicate so much of our soul and effort to like maintain it and build it.
Yeah.
And all these things, right? So part of that love process is like I'm sitting there thinking of like other platforms that have been built in the past. And it's like, man, I wonder if there's any parallels between what we're building and what has been built. Right. So I was like, oh, Opensea, let's go to the Wayback Machine, right? There's a nice little tool where you can actually go back in time and peer into like what was being constructed during those times. I wish we had that for like
our own lives.
Like we could go back and like watch the pyramids like in its like halfway phase.
That would be very cool.
Sick, but we can't do that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But on the internet you can. So here it is. This is like Opensea in 2018. I mean, we're talking before NFTs became of any interest to anybody. Yeah. There was a team out there, the Opensea team. They were like, yo, there's a new protocol here called ERC 721. People have figured out a good way to a good framework to digitize unique assets, and have true on-chain ownership. Yeah. So you know what? People are doing that. There's projects like, Crypto Kitties, Crypto Celebs, the Crypto Punks. They're out there adopting this framework, but there's no real way, and there's no infrastructure or platform to support, the minting of these things and the trading of them, all that stuff, right? Right. Well, guess what? That's exactly what Mscribe is doing. There's a new framework, a new platform, a new way of creating digital assets called DMT in the NAT framework. Mm-hmm. People are deploying them, but there was no real platform to kind of like support all this stuff, right? So that's what Mscribe is about. Mm-hmm. So we started like doing real parallel analysis of like from that time to where we are today. Yeah, we found like some really eerily close connections, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And so we were, sharing this with our team, and so we're trying to contextualize like how potential and how big like just introducing something new to the ecosystem is. Yeah. And so when you brought this up, I was like, holy shit, dude. Yeah. It's like we got to share this with everybody.
Yeah, I mean, part of, being an entrepreneur is like you always have to like find any way to keep like the fucking motivations going. Because there's so much friction and pain and suffering in that.
There's a lot of pain
in that journey. So like any little beacon of hope is like, oh shit, maybe we're on our path to something like really big here. Right?
Yeah. So all right, so let's stick with that parallel. So CryptoKitties, what's the first asset on DMT? NAT, right? We were just talking about it. Yeah. And how much total volumes did it have? 20 million. Yeah. What do you know?
Yeah, 20 million plus. So like if we were constructing like the OpenSea version of Mscribe, like right now, this is what our landing page looked like. Yeah. You replaced this cute cat with our cute little like gnat. Yeah. It's adorable too, right? The little fucking paradoxical cube.
Yeah, this thing.
That thing.
Right?
That's our number one, right?
Right.
So 20 million plus, check. It's the same.
And then all of a sudden EV comes in with Nat Cats. Yeah. It's like, and then you check the volume. What was that?
Right there. Total volume, roughly 600 Bitcoin. So let me just pull out my nifty little calculator. You guys could do the same at home.
Yeah,
600 times, what's 70,000?
70,000, yeah.
Per Bitcoin. We're talking 42 million.
42, my goodness.
That's 30 million plus, dude. Check. There's the Nat Cats.
And then all of a sudden King hits us up. Hey, let's do this thing. It's like, cool, let's do it. Yeah. And then we have the Royals.
The Royals, pre art unveil. What are we at, dude? Let's say roughly 15 Bitcoin, 70,000 ish. We're talking 1 million. So I mean, we're in the ballpark,
right?
So yeah, like you're literally like juxtaposing these 2 points in time. Like we have too many like eerily close parallels, right? So we have others to fill in these slots too, like Nat Frogs, Natalia's that actually did 40
Natalia's.
Bitcoin in volume collectively. I mean,
Yeah.
we're talking like 4 or 5 million there.
Yeah, and I'm not sure why they don't show the numbers here. They probably don't have it, right? But yeah, so that's it. And it's like, okay, so that was Opensea in 2018. What has Opensea done since this beautiful website, right?
Yeah, humble beginnings.
Yeah, exactly. It says cumulative volume, $39 billion.
Yeah.
Cumulative revenue, $1 billion. Yeah. And then currently right now, their annualized revenue right now today, when things are a little bit of in a slump, it's 15 million a year.
Yeah, these are truly shocking numbers, right? And yeah, Dune, whoever created this dashboard, probably OpenSea, did a good job of like, bringing all this data together. But it's really just to paint a picture of like, a lot of people saw NFTs were probably onboarded into crypto as a result of like NFTs taking off.
Yeah.
I mean, they're missing the context of like, how this came to be about, right?
Yeah.
Most people weren't actually around during the days of 2018, 2019, where there was like less than 100 people on the entire planet interested in this stuff.
Yeah.
We were there.
Yeah.
Actually, during those days, we were looking at NFTs. Yeah. We were building NFTs of our own.
Yeah. We were wondering, like, when are people going to look at this stuff and care about it? It's like, will they ever care about NFTs?
Yeah, I remember going to OpenSea and seeing like these like very primitive projects with like 50,000 in total volume. It's like, wow, is this ever? We're questioning our sanity back then. It's like, why are we like contributing to this? Right?
Yeah, it was every day. I mean, you could go back to the podcast. I mean, it was happening in real time.
It was happening, and then so it happened. our question was answered when it was like right in front of us, dude, and we had no idea how it was gonna happen or like how violently it would occur,
erupt. Yeah,
and it far surpassed our expectations. So here we are in this new position of like, there's probably like a few hundred people on Earth interested in this whole DMT vertical of Web3, right?
Yeah.
Definitely less than 100 people actually experimenting and deploying new assets and such. So we find ourselves in that same situation we were 4 years ago, dude. We were like, when, how, what's it going to look like?
Yeah.
Period, right?
Yeah. And what's going to be that meta that's going to erupt?
Yeah.
Right? So it could be like the whole concept of DMT and like the whole assets of PFP or deployable assets on Bitmap. I mean, it could be anything.
Yeah, there's an infinite array of ways to apply DMT and the non-arbitrary token framework.
BlockFi, you got gaming, metaverse,
Gen art,
PFP
art. Yeah, just static content proliferation if you want to do that. It's an open canvas.
3D assets.
Yeah. And we have like people who are on the horizon. They're going to be launching demonstrations of all of this over the next coming several months. So that's what we're up to. If you're wondering what's next, how are we actually going to prove this parallel?
Yeah, correct.
Definitely keep your eyes on Mscribe, dude. you know?
Yeah. All right. That's it for us. If we miss anything in the DMT space, definitely let us know in the comment section below. I appreciate you guys for watching, and we will catch you in the next video.
Peace.